All right, thank you, Kim. And first off, I want to thank for you and InterDyn BNI having the Professional Advantage team here today. So I'm going to take everyone through collections management today. So about how today's demonstration is going to work is I want to go through a short PowerPoint here, explain some background information of who we are at Professional Advantage, as well as the benefits of using collections management. At that time, I'll transition over to GP. I'm going to break today's demonstration into two parts. First is going to be more of your day-to-day collecting and centralizing customer information, and the second part is going to be more of the automation process. So let's start here just with the PowerPoint. My name is Griffin Swanson here. As Kim stated, I am the account manager for Professional Advantage. I have some contact details there right now, but don't worry, I'll be pulling those up at the end as well. Just a little background information of who I am. Now, who we are here at Professional Advantage. Professional Advantage was established in 1989. We've been a Microsoft President's Club member for several years, and we now have 12 offices that range worldwide. So how today's agenda, as I previously mentioned, going to really break today's demonstration into two parts. So first part is going to be your tools for your daily collecting. We're going to review your customers and create notes for those customers. I'm going to show you how to manage a task list, and then I'm also going to show you how to create and send emails or one-off emails. Second part will be that automation process of collections management. So I'm going to show you how we can target specific customers in a collection query and send those customer statements, invoice, or follow-ups. I'm going to show you how we can set up those customers automatically on a collection plan and on how to process those collection plans. So that's today's agenda. Well, let's not wait any longer. Let's start talking about collection management. So first off, I'd like to highlight here some of the problems customers are seeing when they're doing their collecting today and how collections management is going to solve those problems. So first, I'd like to highlight that there's a lot of decentralized information in the sales and accounts receivable areas in GP. And one problem we see today is companies just don't have the ability to keep collection history on their customers in GP. So they may print off an age trial balance, they may keep some posted notes, or perhaps they've shared an Excel file. But the main problem with that is there's really no way to share those notes, conversations, or history with other users, at least not in GP. So collections management adds value in number one, the collections main window. Now this is really going to be the command center for your product. It's great for ad hoc inquiry, and you can use this main window for tracking and creating notes, setting up follow-up tasks, creating actions on invoices such as promises to pay, or maybe it's in dispute. You'll also be able to access a task window, which is going to be your to-do list for this collections module. Now collection notes can also be created from the main window, and the notes have historically been the hub of collections management, really the main functionality, and they allow your users to create actions, keep history, and notes on customer invoices. And then you're also going to see those notes act as follow-up tasks. Second pain point that we see a lot of our customers have is there's a lot of inconsistent follow-up, and with that follow-up you're perhaps using a lot of manual communication. So our collection plans here are going to allow your users to spend less time searching for customers, spend less time creating emails, and attaching invoices manually. So these workflows are essentially a set of actions suggested automatically based on the due date of a customer's invoice. So you're going to be able to use the predefined plans that we have set up, or you can define your own from scratch and then really tailor those to your different customer types. You will then process those actions suggested by the plans in similar groups, one by one, or all at one time, and I'll show everyone that today in today's demo. Lastly here, bottom line collections management is aimed to reduce your bad debt and improve your cash flow. So I'll also show a number of performance reports that we have in collections. We have an accounts receivable summary window. There are some smart lists and some SSRS report templates that come with the product. And then we also have some individual collector performance reports built in the product as well. The last thing there with collections management is it also calculates your DSO. So that allows you to track your days sales outstanding over time and then really measure your return on investment on this product. Now the last two slides here highlight the return on investment of collections and how you can track your DSO. Now a good statistic to calculate your return on investment is your DSO. That's because your DSO indicates how much you're selling and how fast you're getting paid. and then that can really indicate how effective your collection process is working. So the example I have here on this slide is highlighting for simplicity reasons. If you're a $36 million company today, that's roughly $3 million a month or $100,000 a day, and you implement collections management and use that as a catalyst to decrease your DSO, the example I have here, let's say within the first year of using collections, we've decreased our DSO from 45 days to 40 days, so just down by 5 days. That's going to result in another $500,000 in your bank account. Now in the same light here, here's a simple cash benefit analysis, which really just gives you a better idea how much more money you could collect by decreasing your DSO, and then also based on some national averages on what's paid relative to due date. Here's what a dollar is worth in relation to days past due. So after looking at a few of these things, it's easy to see why having a good collection system is important. So like I said, pretty short and sweet PowerPoint there. Let's hop into GP at this time, and I'll show you collections management. Note this product is designed to manage a collection team, but it's also a great collections tool in a single collector environment. Now you're going to notice today that in the demonstration, the navigational and visual cue features are the same as in other GP modules, so it allows you to work between the modules with ease. I do have my demonstration set up today in GP 2015. Current functionality is supported on GP 2016 and GP 2015. However, we do have code for older versions. Just note they will no longer be enhanced moving forward. Got a number of shortcuts here on my homepage today as well, and that's just for demoing purposes, but just note when all functionality and windows are installed, they will reside here in the sales area in GP. All right, let's take you through collections management. So we're going to start, as I mentioned, is break this down into two different parts, starting with the day-to-day collecting first. So I want to show you the importance of this main window here first, show you the importance of these fields. I also want to demonstrate a number of actions we can do from the main window as well. So let's start by selecting a customer. I'll choose Aaron Fitz Electrical. Now the main window, again, as I mentioned in the PowerPoint, this is really going to be your starting point or command center for the product. It provides a detailed record of your contacts with your customers. So you pick your customers, we just did Aaron Fitz Electrical. We can certainly sort through these different address IDs that we have set up for that customer. So if I'm trying to collect from Aaron Fitz Electrical at more than one location, this would allow me to do that. Now I can see I have a contact person for this customer here. I can see their phone and fax numbers. I can see the last time this customer made a payment and how much that payment was for. And then their payment terms are listed directly below that. So Aaron Fitz Electrical was on our net 30 payment terms. Year-to-date sales, this number here is really just giving us a better idea of how big of a customer we're trying to collect from. And then underneath that we have unposted sales, unposted cash, and unposted orders. So I'd like to mention that these three links here are drill downs to some core GP windows. For example, if I click on that unposted sales, that's going to pull open a SOP document inquiry. So that's core GP, as well as this receivables inquiry window. Again, that's core GP. Now these may be important to review before you do your collecting. First off here, your unposted sales and your unposted orders. Let's say you come into your collections main window, you select your customer, and you see that customer owes you a large amount of money that you still need to collect on. You can look back at some of these unposted sales and unposted orders, and perhaps there's a product we haven't shipped out to this customer yet, or a service we've carried out to them. We can look at putting a hold on those things until we see your customer start making some of their payments. To put your customer on hold, you simply come up next to this customer ID, check this hold box. Once I see Aaron Fitz Electrical start making some of those payments that they owe on, at that time I would take them off of hold. Now additionally, this unposted cash is important to review as well. Again, let's say you come into your collections main window, open up your customer, see that customer owes you a large amount of money, but you also have a lot of unposted cash from that customer. So that's showing you that you've received cash from your customer, but it hasn't been applied to the open invoices in GP. So again, it's good to look back at this unposted cash beforehand so you can potentially avoid an awkward conversation with your customer. Maybe you're reaching out to them asking for payment. When you've already received that payment, again, it just hasn't been applied to the invoices in GP. Next field we have here then is the credit manager. So this allows a customer to be assigned to a specific credit manager. Now, a large group of customers can also be divided amongst a collection team if necessary. We have our aging pulled off to the right-hand side of the window here. Now, it's worth mentioning that aging is pulled right from accounts receivable, so this information here is going to be as current as your last aging routine. And you can drill into any of these aging periods and display that, and that's going to pull open a transactional window and show you the specific invoice or invoices that fall into that specific aging period. So at this time, I typically ask customers, do you use the multi-currency function in GP? If any of you have stated yes, this drop down here I want to mention, right now you're seeing your customers aging in their functional currency, but this drop down here would allow you to see your customers aging in their originating currency. So keep that in mind. We then have the total due here, so that's going to be the total amount of what's been invoiced to your customer and what they owe you here. Now below that we can see their credit limit, salesperson, and territory ID, and those are just standard GP fields. Below that we have the parent ID, and that allows you to see if your customer is part of a national account. So if any of your GP customers were a part of a national account, it's going to display that parent account ID here. And then it's also worth mentioning that there's a national accounts option at the top of the window here where we can display just a single customer as I've been demonstrating, or we can switch it to a group. That's going to display the entire national account. So all the notes that have been created for either that parent or child would be displayed here, as well as those accounts receivable totals. But for today's demonstration, let's just stick with the single customer. We then have the collection plan ID displayed here, so I can see Aaron Fitz Electrical was on my regular collection plan. However, that collection plan is going to be a part of the automation process later on in the demo. I just wanted to briefly mention that if your customer was assigned to one of those plans, it would be displayed here in the main window as well. We then have the total amount outstanding here, and that's going to be the sum of what's been invoiced to your customer, as well as unposted sales and unposted orders. All right, so let me demo those notes next. So you can create unlimited notes per customer. You can create new notes from scratch at the top of our main window here. But let me just pull open an existing note so we have some actual data to look at. All right, so when these notes are created, it's going to show the date and the time the user created this note. It's going to display the caller ID here, and that's going to be the actual GP user who created this note. You can then see we have an address and contact set up for our customer here, and then we can assign this note to different priority levels. The bottom portion of this note is the note text. So this is all open text fields. You're going to be able to type in whatever you want this note to read. You can even copy and paste email conversations in here. So in this case, it looks like we spoke to Bob Fitz. Bob's telling us he's going to send payment by early next week on a couple of invoices that they owe. The next thing the user will do when they create these notes is assign it to an action. So an action is something that you've done, such as a reminder or a follow-up, or it can be the status of an invoice. Maybe it's in dispute, or maybe it's been promised for payment. So let me show you some examples of these actions here. So this action ID field tracks any follow-up actions that have occurred or that need to occur. So these are all the different actions I have set up in my demo environment here today, but these are all configurable, so you'll be able to set up whatever actions make sense for your practice or even your specific collecting activities. Now most of these are straightforward. You got checks in the mail here, sent to collections. Maybe there's a certain point in time when an invoice gets old, you need to send them to a collection agency, disputing an invoice, so on and so forth. Now each of these actions here can be categorized with one of three different action types. First type we have is a promise to pay. So our customer has made some sort of notion that they're going to submit payment on this invoice. Second category is special circumstance. So anything deemed outside of your normal day-to-day collecting activities would fall under that. Your third category being dispute. Maybe you're just going back and forth with a customer, disputing what needs to be paid on that invoice. And then if you didn't want to categorize it with one of those three action types there, you can just leave it blank as an action as none. So you'll assign an action to each of your notes. On this note here, it looks like we had a promise to pay. So our customer is promising to pay these invoices. Below that, we have this action date, and the action date really leverages the note as a follow-up task. So I'm going to show everyone our task window here in just a few minutes, but that way we then have this note in here telling us, hey, the customer told us they're going to submit payment by early next week, but if it comes due and it's still open, we have this note in here that's going to show up on our task window telling us that we need to follow up again because it obviously has not been paid. Now you can also assign these notes to different GP users, so if you came into here, created a note that wasn't for a customer that you manage, this would allow you to assign it to the appropriate credit manager. And then the next thing you'll do is select the documents or invoices this note pertains to. So if you drill into that as I just did, this is going to pull open a transactional list here and show us all of the open accounts receivable that that customer has. So you simply need to just check the invoices you would like this note to pertain to. So you can see here I already have a couple selected. Once you select those invoices, it's automatically going to default this action amount to the total amount of those invoices you selected. But you can change this action amount. It is editable. I like to tell my customers if you're trying to collect from somebody and they're telling you they can only make a partial payment on this action amount, you can change it to the amount that they said they're going to pay. So for example, let's say you reach out to Bob Fitz here, and Bob comes back and says, hey everyone, I just can't pay that $3,000 today. However, I do have $2,000 that I can make as a down payment. You can type that $2,000 in here. That way when that $2,000 comes across, we can apply that payment inside of GP and then follow up on the remaining amount that the customer owes with a different note. Below that, we have the status of this note. So this note is open because it has not been paid. Once that payment comes through, we can mark it as complete. And then if for any reason we needed to cancel a note, or if a note was canceled by one of our plans, we have status reasons for that as well. Now before I move on from this drop down here, I want to mention that in that task window that I'm going to drill into in a few minutes, there's a button in there called Mark Complete. And basically, by clicking that button, that automatically goes through and finds all of your paid invoices and automatically completes them for you. So you're not stuck having to come into each individual note and manually complete them yourself. If we notice, or if that button notices that the invoice has been paid, then it's automatically going to complete that for you. I will go into further detail on that button as we get into the task window. And then one sort of lesser known features with the notes here is that anytime someone comes in and edits this note or makes a revision, it's going to keep a history of those revisions. So if you drill into that as I just did, you'd be able to come back all the way to the original note, see those revision dates, and then you'd also be able to see if it's been modified by any user. So those are the collection notes there. Next thing I want to drill into here then is this total due drill back. If I click on that, that's going to pull open an accounts receivable transaction list. And there's some really nice visual cues we get in this window. This little information icon, that's going to let you know that there's a note attached to that document. You also notice there are some letters next to these. So this P here is going to denote that the invoice has been promised for payment. You can see the total amount down here on what the customer is promising to pay us. Now the cool thing about these promise payment notes is that, let's say the action date goes past due, your customer did not submit payment on it, it's automatically going to change this P here into a B, which will denote a broken promise. So then you can easily see which ones did not get paid on time. A couple more letters at the bottom. We have a D that will denote that it's in dispute. S denotes special circumstance. Again, you can see the total amount being disputed down here. The total amount deemed special. And then the remaining amount that your customer owes that hasn't been categorized by those action types. So that's where those action types come into play, and then you can inquire on groups like that. All right, now let's demonstrate a number of the actions we can do from the main window here, starting with the task list. So this list here is actually essentially going to be your to-do list for the day. Now I'm going to change my action date here just to kind of give you a better idea of what that looks like when it has more data. And what this window does is it really helps organize follow-ups to help ensure prompt collections. So all of your outstanding action items for a particular collector can be viewed in this window. Individual notes can be opened from here or marked as complete. And then that's where this Mark Completed button comes into play. So by clicking this button here, it's going to automatically mark outstanding items as completed if all the invoices attached to the note have been paid in full. So basically, this functionality is saving your collectors from manually having to check whether or not a customer has paid each outstanding invoice. It's automatically going to do that for you. One other thing to note is that you can select the collector ID here, and I know I touched on this already, but if you didn't have an ID selected in here, it's just going to show you all of your open tasks. So maybe you got a collector who's out on vacation and you wanted to make sure you did the follow-ups for that user. This would allow you to work on other people's tasks, and then you can also sort by the action date or the action ID. Couple other actions here from the main window. We have the option to send a one-off email from this window. So if you're trying to collect from Bob Fitz here and send him some invoices, we can quickly send him a one-off email. Now if the customer's maintenance card is set up with an email address, we can add that right to the window. You can also manually type those email addresses in as well, and then blind copy or copy anybody too. Now in collections management, you have the ability to set up what we call collection letters. Letter templates can easily be created for printing, faxing, or emailing to customers as we're doing now. And letters is kind of an older term, but if you think of them as message templates, you can use them in this window here. So these are all the different templates I have set up. I'm going to show you this maintenance window here in just a few minutes, but let me just pick one here to give you a better idea of what this looks like. So once you select that template there, you're going to be able to select whatever invoices you need to attach to this email. So we have a transactional list down here at the bottom where we simply just check the invoices we would like to attach. So I'm going to go ahead and do just that. Once I have those invoices selected, I'm going to come up here and click this blue refresh button. At that time, it's going to do a few things for me. Number one, it's going to list out the invoice details in the body of the email. Number two, it's going to print those invoices. And then it's also going to attach them as PDF documents. So how do we set up those collection letters? Let's do that. So if we come into the sales area here, the customer cards, we drill back to this collection letters. That just pulls open my standard letter maintenance window. So again, you can see a number of different templates that I have set up already. So these are all configurable. You're going to be able to set up whatever templates make sense for your one-off emails, or as you'll see here in a few minutes, we can also attach these to our collection plans. Now the nice thing about these is you can enter specific function fields. So maybe we know that we want to put in all overdue invoices for a specific customer. We can enter that function right in the body of this letter here. Once we attach those invoices to the body of the email, this function is then going to recognize that and then put those overdue invoice details in the body of the email. Now it's not just tailored around specifically invoices. You can also put customer information in there or collector information. You know, maybe you want to make a letter sound more personal, put that customer name. Now you can also attach invoices to this email too, or to this specific letter. So even though you put all overdue invoices in the body of the email, you have a lot of different grouping options here for which type of invoices you need to attach. Maybe you attach all of their invoices just so they're aware what they have outstanding. So again, you'd be able to create as many or as few letters as you need, and you can always edit and modify those. For customers just getting started on collections management, we actually pre-populate some of that data if you'd like. So at the bottom here in our setup window, we have this collection sample data, and if you wanted, you could always use the actions, letters, or collection plans here that we have set up as just kind of a starter or best practice for those just using collections. Again, you'd be able to go in and edit or delete those at any time. Let's hop back into the main window here. I got one more action that I want to show you from this window, and that's how to build a query. One of the first problems we see with customers doing their collections today is finding the customers that they should be calling first. That's because most companies using GP collect using an age trial balance where the customers are sorted alphabetically and not by collector. So you can use this build queries window here to target the customers that you specifically want to work with. So I'm going to show you the standard collection query here first. So this standard collection query here allows me to develop a list of customers based on a number of restrictions. So I can sort by a specific customer, specific collector, a balance that that customer owes, or if a balance is greater than their credit limit, different aging periods or due dates, notes, or different action types. So really a lot of different grouping options we're giving you there to focus in on specific customers. I'm going to pull open one I've already created. So I pull that open. Now I go and look at the bottom here. I have my restrictions set, so it looks like I'm looking for customers on my high-risk collection plan with a balance greater than their credit limit. Once I have those restrictions set, I'm going to run my query. Click yes. At that time, it's going to tell me how many records of mine it searched, how many met my restrictions, and of those who met my restrictions, their total balance and their overdue balance. So if I click OK here, it automatically saves that query. You notice it brings us back to the main window, and we went from viewing all of our customers to just the ones who are in that query. So once this query is generated, we have the option to send these customers a letter, statement, and invoices to, again, all the customers in that query. Let me show you how to do that as well. Again, in the sales area here, we come to this transactions. We just built that query. Once we have our query set, our restriction set, we can drill into this queries letter window. So you can see here, high risk over my credit plan, the 2 customers who met my restrictions. From here, I'd be able to send those letters, statements, and documents to those customers. And then from this window, you'd be able to click email. Unfortunately, I'm not going to email those to my customers right now, though. So that's how you do that from this window. Well, let's hop back into that main. As I previously mentioned, we went from viewing all of our customers to just the ones who are in that query. So we can also hit this customer ID lookup. It's going to show you those 2 customers. Again, the 2 that met my restrictions with their balance overdue and their total due balance. Next feature I want to show you here is this advanced query. So this gives you the ability to enter SQL script to query your data. So if you wanted to manually write these yourself, you can certainly do that. Maybe you have somebody who's knowledgeable with SQL queries inside of your company and wants to create something different than what we have here. We can certainly do that as well. Again, we're really just giving you the ability to use that SQL script to focus in or query specific data. All right, so that wraps up the first part of this demonstration, or again, the day-to-day collecting and centralizing customer information. So now how do we automate that process? We're going to start here with the collection plans. So the collection plans are really a set of steps or workflows that execute actions based on your customer's oldest invoice. So I have a few different plans set up here already. This is my good customer plan. This might be something I assign to my premium accounts or those who are notorious for making their payments on time. I have a high risk plan here. This might be just something I assign to my previously late paying customers, and then a regular plan here. Maybe this is a standard collection plan that I assign to all of my new customers by default. Now if you're looking at the steps in any of these plans here, again, these actions are being suggested based on the due date of your customer's oldest invoice. These are all configurable actions. So the first step in this plan actually happens 7 days before that invoice is due. So a negative amount in the first step. And what's happening is we're executing an action called soon due. I can drill into any of these actions here, so I'll drill into the soon due action. I notice that this action happens to be a letter that they're going to get. So I can drill into that letter as well. That's just pulling open that standard letter maintenance window as I previously demonstrated. So in this letter here, we're letting them know that they have invoices with us that will soon be considered overdue. We list out those invoice details in the body of the email. And then the invoices we configured to be attached to this email include all invoices not overdue. So again, a lot of different grouping options there for which invoices we need to attach. And then we can also copy in or blind copy the customer salesperson if they need to be in the loop for a certain step. And again, if you need to come in and modify these, you can always do that. Again, maybe you just want to make the letter sound more personal, put that customer's name in there. Let's hop back into the plan. So it's going to take your customer through the steps in these plan as long as their invoice has not been paid. So 5 days past due, we send a reminder. 14 days, a phone call. 30 to 45 days, a couple letters. So on and so forth, coming in at 90 days past due, your final action. So your final action, or really any action, can be a reminder to your collector internally. You got customer so-and-so now 90 days past due. We need to put their account on hold, or we need to just send them to a legal department. So once your customers reach the last step in their plan, you have 2 options. Number 1, you can keep repeating that last step. Maybe you just send the customer an email every 30 days telling them their account is on hold, or you could just have the plan stop suggesting next actions In that case, you would have to determine manually what you want to do with the invoice for that customer. One other thing worth mentioning is this minimum amount due. Again, based on your customer's oldest invoice, if that invoice does not meet this minimum amount, then it's not going to take your customer through the steps in this plan. So basically, you're setting a floor here for what needs to be collected on each collection plan. Now, a good example I like to give is, let's say you have someone assigned to this regular plan. You do millions of dollars worth of business with them every year, but for some weird reason, they have a $5 invoice that's past due. You're probably not going to want to take them through the steps in this plan or send them a number of threatening actions unless it's over that minimum invoice amount. And again, you'll be able to set up different minimums here for each plan that you have set up. Now, how do we create these plans and assign them to customers? Again, let's drill back into this sales area here. We come into the customer cards. So you'll be able to build those collection plans from scratch. Just like the letters, you can create as few or as many collection plans as you need. You can always modify, edit, or delete those. The more important question is, how do we assign customers to a plan? The first and most obvious way is assign customers to a collection plan. So you can see here is a number of different areas or a number of different ways we can assign those customers to a plan. Maybe we just want to do customers from A to Z, or A to G, H to K, so on and so forth. So really a lot of different options there for how we want to assign those plans. You would then select that specific plan and assign all of those customers at that time. Two other options, or two other ways we can do that. We can assign those plans individually. We can drill into these customer cards, drill into their collection information, and assign that collection plan there. And then by default, if we know that we want all of our customers assigned to a specific collection plan, we can always use this collection setup window. And by default, we can assign them to a specific collection plan and then change that collection plan if need be once they become more established. So how do we execute those actions then? We're then going to use this plan processing window. So bear with me, it's a pretty big window, but what we're looking at is all of our customers, all of the ones who are on those collection plans, and the ones assigned to get those actions on those collection plans. So I can sort and process these actions in a number of ways. I can look at all of my customers with a balance, my overdue customers, maybe I want to sort by a collector or a query that I built, or I can just look at all the customers who have reached the end of their plan. Today, I'm going to choose overdue customers. Now I can search this queue here by the customer name, the plan they're assigned to, last action they received, or next action they're scheduled to get. So as I mentioned in the PowerPoint, we can really group these customers. So let me show you how to do that. I'll pick next action, I'll choose first letter, and the reason being is because the first letter in my collection plans are typically an early step in those plans. I'm not really worried about who's getting those. I just go ahead and process all of those customers. So that's how you'd be able to group those customers. But for today's demo, I want you to be able to view more customers here, so I'm going to change that back to all. Now the overall goal of this window is for you to be able to come in here, do a quick review of these customers and the actions they're scheduled to get. But let's say you're running through this list and you're like, advanced tech satellite, I just spoke with them on the phone yesterday. You can pick that customer as I just did. You'd be able to pick and choose which actions you want to include for this customer. The bottom portion here is letter text, so maybe just put in here, hey Griff, I know we spoke on the phone yesterday, but I wanted to send you those invoices that you owe us. You can modify that quickly and then process just that customer. Or you can even come back up into the queue, delete them. It's going to take them out of the queue temporarily and let you process all of your other actions. Because again, the overall goal of this window is for you to be able to come in here, do a quick review of those customers and the actions they're scheduled to get, and then process all those customers. Once you process those customers, it's going to give you a report here based on the plan your customer was assigned to. So on our good customer plan, we're sending out 8 emails of a final letter, 4 emails of a first letter. On my high risk plan, 17 emails of a final letter, so on and so forth. But let's say we have a customer assigned to get their next action, but they don't have an email address set up in GP. It is going to warn you to go back and set them up with an email address here. Otherwise, at the bottom, we do have the option to send those who do have an email, print those who do not. In that case, you'd have to send the printed ones through the mail or however you wanted to contact your customers. So that is the plan processing window. and how you execute those actions. Two more windows I want to cover here today. First being this receivable summary inquiry window. So this allows your managers or really anybody to review accounts receivable summary information. So you can do it by a credit manager, you can do it by a query that you've built, or a parent company, and then really see how each credit manager is doing in regards to their collecting. Or if you leave it blank like I have right now and click calculate, it's going to do all of your accounts receivables for you. So this top portion here is just your standard receivable summary information. The middle portion here is the summary information on your notes. So I can see here how many disputed notes I have, can drill in and find that disputed note, how many promised notes. I can drill into any of those links and find those notes. But the two most important fields on this window are, first of all, notes past a contact date. So it's showing here I have 4 notes that have gone past their contact date. I could follow up with them first. And then the most important field on this window is overdue documents not on a note. Again, bear with me, this is my demoing data, but it's showing here I have nearly $1 million of past due invoices that I don't have a note for. So essentially, I don't know why they haven't been paid. So from here, credit manager could drill into those and assign those for follow-ups to different collectors, or they could just schedule phone calls for those customers as well. The bottom portion, that's just your customers aging. Last window here to wrap up today's demonstration is this Days Sales Outstanding calculator, or DSO calculator. So you can users can pick a specific time period and calculate the DSO for that period. So I have my date set. I'm going to run that. You can see it calculates it for me. It's going to show me my sales for that period, average sales per day, sales outstanding, and my days sales outstanding. You can then add that to a log here at the bottom and track your DSO over time. But the way we have collections set up now by default is every time you log into GP, it is going to track that DSO for you. That being said, that wraps up the collections management demonstration. Kim, I can certainly turn this back over to you. And as she is aware, there's a special offering that I wanted to offer everyone for attending today. So all attendees from today's webinar can receive a 20% discount off the software cost of collections management, making that valid for 2 months essentially, so through May 15th, 2017. If you'd like more details and a quote with that 20% discount, please reach out to InterDyn BMI, Kim and her team for a formal quote.
Excellent. Love it, love it, love it. You gave us a reason, and there's a lot of folks here that don't have this, so that's great. All right, so again, on the right-hand side, type in questions that you would like to ask. The first one comes from Sandra, and it says, when do your template for customer balance letter, does it automatically show the customer has any credit returns, memos, or overpayments?
Unfortunately, we don't have a function for that, but there's one thing I do want to mention here. We're always looking to innovate our product. So for example, I think that would be a great idea for our development team. I can certainly run that past them on my end too. But for today, we do not have a function that would allow you to kind of see those credits for a specific customer. It's more of just collecting on their past due invoices, and that's really what collections is kind of tailored around. But in this extras drop down here, we have this suggest a feature, and that's going to send an email directly to our support and development teams, as you can see here. And that would be a perfect example as to when you would be able to send that. So that's a great idea. I'm actually going to bring that up during our next product meeting. But for today, it does not focus in on those functions.
Excellent. All right, everybody. Any other questions you've got? Let's type those into the queue because I don't see. What are some other common questions, especially for those that do not have collections management? I know that you guys use some good ROI messages in that. We do have some follow-up materials that we can share with everybody. But when I look at this, it's just kind of a no-brainer. Is there kind of a, I have X numbers of collections that I need to do each month or X number of hours? Where do you think that it starts where we're going to be getting a good ROI with your product?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the goal, right? We want to make sure we're cutting down on the time you're actually spent collecting. So at first, it is going to take some time in regards to getting customers set up on a collection plan, assigning them to specific collection IDs, so on and so forth. But once you have that material set up in collections, it's essentially going to become a routine process. For every day you're going to want to come in, and the first thing you're probably going to want to do is view into your task window. And again, as I previously mentioned, we have that mark completed button. So when you come into this task window, it's going to show you all the tasks that you got to do for that day. At that time, you would click mark complete, and it's going to wipe away the ones that have already been paid and shorten that list for you. Or if you don't see that those have been wiped away, you then know that you need to follow up with those specific customers first. So it's going to show you your latest or most outstanding invoices first. You got to collect on those oldest past due invoices, and then that's when you're really going to see that return on investment start turning around, because you're going to be cutting down on the days spent actually collecting. So it's really nice that we kind of organize those prompt follow-ups so you can know, hey, I got to reach out to customers A, B, and C first before I reach out to customers E, D, and F. And that's just because, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to actually, when it comes to the money being outstanding, a dollar actually decreases immensely. You can see here 6 months, it's almost half of what it would have been worth if you would have collected on it right away. So that's when you're really going to see the return on investment on this product help collect and get you that money that's yours. That's the goal. It is your money, so let's get it to you.
Excellent. All right, Tony has a question here. Are you able to send a statement to customers in the collections management main window?
Yes, absolutely. So let me just pull open a customer here. So from this contact window here, it's basically the same window that you'd be able to come in here. I see you got Aaron Fitz Electrical, and I'd be able to send him those statements. I'd be able to look through and attach that statement. But yes, to answer his question, if you wanted to send it from the main window, this is where you would do that.
Excellent. All right. Griffin, thank you so much. That was a great presentation. And again, everyone, we will be following up with you, but don't wait. Get in touch with your InterDyn BMI contact, and we'll work with you a little bit more, especially when we got a discount on the table. So thank you very much, Griffin, for that.
Not a problem. I want to thank the InterDyn BMI team and Kim, you as well, for allowing us to be on here today to demonstrate collections management. As I said previously, it'd be probably best to reach out to InterDyn BMI and Kim, her team, to start, but I do have my contact details on the screen now. If you have any other follow-up questions or you want to know more about the product, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Thanks so much. All right, everybody. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.